Platte County Prosecutor Eric Zahnd is here on 95.7 FM. This after charges filed yesterday in the death of 3 Kansas City men found frozen at their Northland home in January of 2024. Eric, good morning. Thanks for fitting us into your busy schedule today. What can you share with Kansas City on what you found and why you were able to bring these charges against these 2 individuals?
Well, Pete, I will tell you, first off, I have to just say that all of our hearts go out to the family of these 3 men. And this was a long and complex investigation, but my hats are off to the Kansas City Police Department, who never gave up on this case. It took a while to get here. I think some people believe that charges might never be brought, but we weren't going to rest in my office or at the Kansas City Police Department until we exhausted every possible resource to bring the people who we believe responsible for these deaths to justice. And yesterday's charges against 2 men are the first step in that process.
So with that being said, you've got these 2 individuals now, Jordan Willis and Ivory Carson, in custody, 2 counts of delivery of a controlled substance, 3 counts of involuntary manslaughter. What, if anything, can you share on the history of these 2 individuals and if they have any priors that we're aware of?
Well, I will tell you that we allege that Mr. Willis was with these 3 men the night of their deaths. Mr. Carson, we allege, sold fentanyl to this entire group that was using cocaine and fentanyl that night. The ME determined that the cause of death for these 3 people were combined toxicity of both cocaine and fentanyl in their systems. I'll say this, Pete, it's another reminder of the dangers of street drugs. You just don't know what you're buying if you're buying drugs on the street, and this is just a very sad reminder of that fact.
So this was not cocaine accidentally laced with fentanyl. This was a fentanyl deal and a cocaine deal.
Yeah, the probable cause statement alleges that police found 2 different baggies, one containing cocaine and one containing fentanyl. And the autopsies of these 3 men showed traces of both of those drugs in their systems.
So they were knowingly, or at least believed to be knowingly, taking fentanyl, not taking cocaine that they had no idea was laced with fentanyl.
Yeah, it's difficult to know in a case like this what people believe they were taking.
True.
The sad part is we can't talk to these 3 men about what they knew and didn't know at the time. And again, that's the problem with street drugs, is you may not know exactly what you're ingesting.
Were they drinking as well?
Yeah, there is information from another witness that they were drinking, that they were also using marijuana. So a combination of legal and illegal substances that night.
Wow. So what is your takeaway right now as we talk to the broader Kansas City audience about this case in particular and what this means going forward, and continuing to make sure that fentanyl is a priority, whether it's in Platte County, south of the river, or frankly anywhere else in the region?
Yeah, I'll say this to folks who are dealing drugs in the Kansas City area. Make no mistake, if somebody overdoses from those drugs, we'll do everything we can to hold you accountable for that crime, because it's a crime to deal drugs. And if somebody dies as a result, that means it's either manslaughter or even possibly murder.
Mm-hmm. Are you sensing that more prosecutors are willing to go down this road and charging dealers with things like manslaughter? Is that a new development that you're getting the sense prosecutors are willing to do more of?
It is a relatively new development, Pete, and I will tell you, some of it stems from the dangers of fentanyl, right? Mm-hmm. We know that fentanyl is just so dangerous. It is killing so many people that we've got to do everything we can to get that drug off the street, and again, to hold those folks accountable when somebody dies as a result of ingesting these very dangerous drugs.
And I got to imagine it's easier to prosecute a case with fentanyl when it's a direct deal of fentanyl versus, a deal of cocaine laced with fentanyl or any other drug laced with fentanyl, where the dealer might be able to say, well, I didn't know that was in there. But this seems like it's the easier case to try to prosecute. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, we're certainly going to find that out. And, of course, I should remind you that both of these guys are presumed innocent unless until they're proven guilty.
Yes.
But we certainly believe that they are responsible for these three men's deaths, and we're going to do everything we can to hold them responsible.
All right. And with that, Eric Zahnd, I know that none of this is going to be noticed overnight, but are you hopeful that with new federal border policies, the fentanyl crisis will start to trend in the right direction?
Absolutely. If we can tighten up security on the border, there's no doubt that there will be less fentanyl flowing into this country, and that's good for everybody.
How long would you expect to see results on that, though? I mean, it's not going to happen in a month or 2 months. Do you expect that to take a few months to really start to be noticeable when it comes to numbers?
I do, because there's a lot of fentanyl out there in the market already, but I do think we'll start to see fentanyl begin to dry up, which is a good thing for everybody in this country.
What's your biggest message to parents who are, dealing and trying to navigate this crazy world where, listen, when you were a kid, even when I was a kid, it was like, hey, don't smoke pot. It's a gateway drug. But now it's like, man, if you get something that you don't know what it is or where it came from, we've had stories like this in the Kansas City area where young people are just, they're dying because of this stuff, Eric. So what do you tell people and parents to do?
Absolutely. I would tell every parent, tell your kids, don't take a drug that you've gotten on the street, even marijuana, because we're seeing marijuana sometimes being laced with fentanyl these days. So please don't take street drugs.
All right. When does this trial start? Do you have a date yet?
We don't have a date. It'll be several months before we even know that. But know that my office is not going to rest until we do everything we can to hold these two men responsible. All
right. Eric Zahnd, Platte County Prosecutor on KCMO. Thank you, my friend. We appreciate you fitting us in.
Hey, Pete, it's always great to be with you.
All right, you as well. Eric Zahnd on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM.